Welcome back to the Weekly News Roundup. I hope that everybody had a wonderful week, getting ready for a wonderful weekend, of course, as we get ready to move on here. And what else? Any random news for the day? I don't really think so. I've just been working and taking care of a bunch of things. Oh, we do have one. For supporters, we do have a short story that should go live hopefully by the end of the weekend. I need to do 2 more chapters, editing in the audiobook, and then it is ready to go. So stay tuned to those supporter networks. I will most likely that'll go live on Sunday or Monday of next week. And so there you have it. You have another short story coming out. I don't know. This is one of those ones that you'll have to tell me if you like it. I'm still not totally pleased with it, but I did read it for somebody else who liked it. So, okay, we'll run with it. So, of course, we're also getting ready to start heading west again. We'll be heading west more on a northern corridor. So I'll be on the road here a little bit more. So that might change some scheduling stuff here and there. Who knows? But that's about another week or so before I start doing that. That means in about 2 weeks, I think we'll have a kind of a reduced video schedule for a little bit. So not next week, but the week after, as I'm meeting up with some people before actually hitting the road. So anyway, that is what is going on. So apparently I had a lot more to say. So whatever. If you would want to help support the channel, have a look over at the website, switchedtolinux.com/support. And over there you can see we are on Locals, Patreon, Subscribestar, and there's affiliates and other things over there as well. So you can help support the channel a number of different ways if you want to do that. We do have 2 main topics today. Of course, we're going to be talking about the Google Antitrust, and we're going to return to Mississippi with Mississippi burning and see what's going on with that new law and questions about how our decentralized service is going to withstand the most likely unconstitutional Mississippi law while it can be enforced for now. Yeah, this is just getting weird. Update to what we did. So let's go ahead and jump on in first, and we will talk about Google's remedies. Of course, Google lost the case, declaring it was a monopoly over search, which frankly just shows the sheer nonsense going on in the world, because they don't have a monopoly over search if you can go ahead and change the search engine. Even if you're using Google Chrome or Pixel, whatever else you're doing, you can always go up there into the settings and change your search engine. Now, it's true many people do not do that. We were all scared. Are they going to have to divest of Chrome? Are they going to have to divest of Android? Are they going to have to stop paying organizations like Firefox? That would have been the most devastating of them, because if they were forced to stop paying Firefox, then that would literally actually create the monopoly they were complaining about, because Firefox is the only other viable browser engine right now that is not Chrome based. So think about that. So what are these particular remedies? So having a look at the Ars Technical, Google can keep Chrome, but it must share search data with qualified competitors. There's some interesting things in here. So obviously it was found to violate the Antitrust Act in, positioning its various services up above competitors inside of, their own products. Duh. I mean, who wouldn't do that? Judge Amarat Mehta had ruled that Google does not have to give up the Chrome browser to mitigate its illegal monopoly in online search. Well, divesting of Chrome would have been among the stupidest of things, because, whoever gets Chrome, Google just be like, yeah, just keep the Google the default. Okay. The article here doesn't mention Android, but also does not have to divest of Android. So there you go. Forcing Google to release some search data to competitors and limit its ability to make exclusive distribution deals. This one's going to be interesting for the other thing we talked about in Google this week, where they are going to be requiring every app, whether that's through an app store or sideloaded, to be signed by a developer. The ruling kind of conflicts with that, which is interesting. So we'll see that here in my highlighted notes here. Multiple experts testified in the trial about the impact of the defaults. Most people just don't change settings and simply use whatever the search engine is included in their browser. See, that's not a Google problem. That's the end user problem. That's why I generally, by and large, disagree with this lawsuit, because nobody is forcing you to use the Google search engine. There is a dozen other ones. In fact, nearly every browser has multiple search engines already installed in the system. Okay, already installed in the system, already there. And it just takes going into the settings and changing it. Oh boy. So that is really what they're doing here. The ruling acknowledges Chrome's market position does contribute to Google's search dominance, but full divestiture can have unintended consequences. Of course, what they're talking about is you install Google Chrome, the default search engine is Google. I think the biggest problem is that on nearly any Android phone, the default is Google. That's the one thing that they should deal with, and they should have dealt with it the same way EU dealt with it. Require that the original onboarding screen on any Android device simply says, hey, what is your default search? Now, that applies to the EU, does not apply over here. That would have been the best overall solution, and they already have it implemented over in EU nations, so it would be quite simple to do it over here. So, of course, I do found this. Does anybody else see this photo, this operation photo? Wasn't the old operation dude, wasn't he bald? This one looks like they're pulling the Chrome browser out of Matt Walsh. I don't know. Anyway, so this is neat here. So data remedies that have some teeth. Under the court's ruling, Google will still be permitted to pay for search placement. So with Apple and Mozilla. So those can continue. However, they cannot require any of its partner to distribute Search, Chrome, Google Assistant, or Gemini. So what this means is that primarily dealing with the Android system, they cannot require somebody like Samsung to come through and require them to install the Google Search, Google Chrome, Google Assistant, or Gemini as part of using it. And that really is the thing that they did. Now, what's interesting here is that and that's part highlighted in red. This means Google cannot, for example, make access to the Play Store contingent on bundling of its other apps on phones. Isn't it very interesting that this new feature that Google is doing utilizes the Play Store functionality to verify an app can be installed? So there's two ways to think about this. Number one is that Google could be in some ways in this case, forced, and maybe this is why they push this thing out. If you're using Google Play Store, every app on a Google Play Store phone has to be signed by a developer. But if Samsung comes out and says, well, I no longer am forced to use Play Store, we're going to use our own, now any app can be installed because the Google Play Store is not there to block apps from being sideloaded. Now, Google could position this to say, this means that we are going to position ourselves in a way that our phones with the Play Store could be considered more secure, which they're not. We talked about why that principle Google is doing does not make it more secure. It just allegedly identifies people who are contributing apps. We're going to see in our next section that's not really true. But that was interesting that they cannot force any smartphone manufacturer to have the Play Store by default. And this actually interferes with that whole Google Play Store and Android sideloading situation. So this is an interesting situation that we got to monitor here. I do find that the DuckDuckGo CEO is kind of a moron here in this one. We do not believe the remedies ordered by the court will force changes necessary to adequately address Google's illegal behavior. I'm sorry, Gabriel. I think you're just feeling saucy because your search engine isn't as good as Google. And it pains me to say that. But I do have DuckDuckGo set as a default on a couple of my computers, and its search results tend to suck. Now, some of our supporters, we were mentioning that last night, and some of them actually preferred DuckDuckGo, which is really just a proxy for Bing. But on its specific merits, I think that Google is a better search engine than Bing, and ergo, I don't think DuckDuckGo is nearly as good. They're just saucy that Google doesn't get completely decimated because DuckDuckGo apparently cannot succeed unless their competitors are artificially destroyed. I don't know. The government asked for mandatory data sharing to help other companies make progress on the last 20%. This deals with search information. So Google has a lot of information. And so what they are suggesting now is that we're going to force Google to hand over not a ongoing way of sharing all of our data, but the model is a snapshot in time. Google is going to have to give information over. And so that really is what it boils down to. So this is what this boils down to. The data index will include elements like document ID, URL maps, crawl dates, spam analysis, and more. Courts declined to make Google provide this data on an ongoing basis. Instead, competitors will be able to access the data once or at or around the time they are recognized as a qualified competitor. So an organization like Brave comes up and says, hey, we are a search engine. We would like your data. They would be forced to hand it over if they are considered a qualified competitor. Now, the Brave over here did have some comment in this. Brave operates one of the only two non-Google search indexes, the other being Microsoft. He objected to essentially forcing Google to undercut its business. So this ruling here will actually hurt Brave. These judges have no idea what they're doing. All right. DuckDuckGo isn't happy with the more limited data sharing, of course. They're just saucy. Kaja Vladimir Prislovek, I have no idea, is more optimistic. He praises the judge for ignoring the meaningless remedies like selling Chrome. And I agree with that. Selling off Chrome or Android would be meaningless in terms of this. He calls the move to open up Google's index and search data directionally correct. Okay, so there is some thought there. This is the actual press release, which didn't actually have anything to say about Android and very little to say about Chrome. So the court's ruling recognizes need for remedies that will pry open the market for general search services, which has been frozen in place for over a decade. Ruling also recognizes the need to prevent Google from using the same anti-competitive tactics for generative AI products as it used to monopolize the search market. The remedies will reach Gen AI technologies and companies. So under the remedies, Google will be barred from entering or maintaining exclusive contracts related to distribution of Google Search, Chrome, Google Assistant, and Gemini app. That applies to smartphones. Google will have to make certain search index and user interaction data available to certain competitors. That one is a little bit scary to me because if they're making user interaction data available, that means that another organization potentially has access to information Google has collected on you. And then Google entered a series of exclusionary agreements that collectively locked the primary avenues through which users access online search, requiring Google to be the preset default general search engine on billions of mobile devices and computers, in many cases prohibiting pre-installation of a competitor. So the prohibiting pre-installation of a competitor, that is a valid complaint, but setting Google as the default, get real, dude. Anybody can change their search engines. Okay, now, again, what they're referring to is having a Google search app as a widget on your desktop, meaning that, you know, it's easier to do that to search for something rather than open a browser to do a search. I understand that. So prohibiting the pre-installation of a similar feature from Bing or from DuckDuckGo or from Brave or from StartPage, I see that you need to be able to, a company needs to be able to say, hey, I'm going to have an Android device that's a little bit more private. We're going to pre-install a StartPage suite, for example, instead of a Google suite. That would be good. And so really this could actually, the ruling could actually open up Android market to have more phones like Lineage or Graphene sold on the end user point. So there is some hope for this. It was actually Google's press release to this that actually mentioned Android and Chrome specifically. So we'll just include this for completion here. Competition is intense and people can easily choose services they want. Amen to that. The court did recognize divesting in Chrome and Android would have gone beyond the case's focus and search distribution and would have harmed consumers and our partners. So that is where we get that information. So that is effectively where we are looking at with all of the Google search stuff. And so there is that. Before we move on over to our next topic, which is Mississippi Burning, or Burning Mississippi. What is it? What is that movie name called? We borrowed it off that. Mississippi Burning. We borrowed it off that username. I do want to thank Grayson Petty for $10 super chat. Graphene. I'm a Graphene user here, and I use Kaji as an alternative to Google search. I've already de-Googled my life except for Google Play and YouTube, which have 2 separate accounts in Android. There you go. Awesome. Yeah, I use Graphene OS both on my tablet, which is right in front of me here. I'll use that to monitor our comments over on Matrix, and I use Graphene on my phone as well. And I do not use any Google Play services. I just use the YouTube and things on the computer for business-related things and stuff like that. But thank you for that super chat. Of course, you can do a super chat or even a Rumble rant as well if you are on that platform. May as well double check. No, nobody's done that yet. So let's go ahead and start in on our second topic, Mississippi burning. Of course, we are continuing on our discussion with the law that UK, we talked about it last week, so I was really on the fence. Do we want to include it again? Because the main story twice in a row. But there was a lot of interesting discussion and some more things we can add to it. And so as a brief summary from last time, Mississippi had a law that went into effect. I'm trying to find the exact name of that law. HB 1126, it requires platforms to implement age verification for all users of pretty much everything that allows any form of interaction. It goes far beyond the UK's Online Safety Act, which only requires identity verification for adult-based, adult-focused websites. It even goes beyond the Kids Online Safety Act, which is being proposed, which is a tremendous nightmare we need to push against in the court and in the House and the Senate right now. We really need to push against that Kids Online Safety Act. That does not require verification, but what it does require is it basically overturns Section 230, making any platform liable for any content on there, and it's written in such a vague way that any site could be targeted for any reason if any authority sees a reason to do so. Kids Online Safety Act is kind of a nightmare. But anytime we get into these age verification stuff, there's too many issues coming in. So we're actually going to jump over the pond for a brief discussion of something going on in the UK that was like, yes, genius, we told you this was going to happen. UK age check laws seems to be hurting sites that comply and helping those that don't. Tell me it isn't so. So, of course, the Online Safety Act requires websites which are adult-focused to have age verification, make sure that everybody accessing those are over the age of 18. So they are requiring anybody to access these certain sites to have some means of verifying their age, whether that's, third-party services or whatever else. And as of right now, they said 90 of these adult websites based in the UK. It examined 90 of these. They found 14 of those sites did not perform the age check. All 14 of them seem to have experienced a dramatic increase in traffic. One of them seeing double traffic year over year because it has not implemented age verification. So, site you go to your first adult website that says show me your identity, and you go to the second one that says yeah, I don't care, come on in. You tell me it isn't so, that people aren't going to go to the other one. It's duh. And so this raises the whole question of proxies and VPNs and DNS queries like NextDNS is doing to move around this kind of stuff. But and this is the issue with all these age verifications that are locked to specific geo-regions. So how long before they try and age-gate the entirety of the internet? The problem with that, of course, is that the internet is an adult space. A child should not be meandering through the internet any more than a child should be meandering downtown the streets of Chicago, particularly on Labor Day weekend, And so the challenge we have is we don't want to implement this place on the internet that you have to verify everybody's identity, because then you get into this dystopian nightmare, especially with all of the data tracking and everything else. So Mississippi law is interesting. Unlike many of these other verification rules for like social media and things like that, which have, cutoffs, either a certain GDP in the country or a certain number of users, Mississippi's law is mum on all of that, which means if I am in the state of Mississippi and I want to start up my own little chat board with me and my 5 friends, and I do not verify everybody's identity, I can be fined $10,000 for everybody who signed up. Which is ridiculous, especially if I'm just starting out. How is the way to do this? They also say, like, hey, you have to do it in such a way that keeps the privacy. So, you can verify the ID, but then you should just delete it. Okay, so what is the record that we verified your ID? And this is an interesting question. They have basically produced a law that is stupid, has no basis in reality. You can use VPNs, proxies, and other means to get out, but then you are seriously detrimental to small business, and at the same time, you have no real means to effectively prove you've age verified without keeping a copy of the ID. And that is really what is the fascinating part about the law. It is so bad. It is so horrible. It should have simply been overturned. Like, it should have passed to begin with. We should do cognitive examinations of everybody that voted for this in the state of Mississippi. Okay, this is how bad this law is. And then, of course, the Supreme Court, now we need to examine all of their heads now, too, because while it was injuncted and they said, well, you can't enforce this while it's going through the law, Supreme Court literally came out and said last week, we don't think this is going to pass the court case, but we're going to allow them to enforce the law anyway, because we just don't like the argument that was made for not enforcing it. What type of moronic retardation is this? That is nonsense. So, of course, we talked last week about Blue Sky looks at all this kind of stuff and says, yeah, we can't comply. We're just age gating Mississippi. Now, there were ways you could still get on Blue Sky using an unofficial app or a few other means. You could still access Blue Sky from Mississippi because, these politicians don't know anything about the internet and ways of circumventing geolocations and restrictions and things. Turn on any random YouTuber and they'll be pushing you a subscription for ExpressVPN, NordVPN, Crap VPN, Surfshark, and other nonsense stuff. Hey, you can legitimately use those to access any website if you're inside the state of Mississippi. Go for it. But Mastodon now and Blue Sky are kind of getting into a little fight, and it's raising a lot of fascinating questions. So Mastodon says it does not have the means to comply with age verification laws, so they're just going to ignore it. The problem is that Blue Sky says we don't have the means, but we are not going to get caught up in it, so we're just going to restrict out of Mississippi. And so this has raised a question about decentralized services. The thing is that both Blue Sky and Mastodon are decentralized in a way, but the way Mastodon works is through, I think it's ActivityPub, ActivityPub, the way that they are doing the decentralization is literally decentralized. It's this server's over here, that server's over there, and they can all kind of talk to each other. All right, so with that, what we start to see here is that the challenge is if I happen to have one of those little federated services in the state of Mississippi, now I'm under Mississippi jurisdiction, I have to comply to that law. Now, Blue Sky works with a different protocol. It uses the ACT protocol, which is not necessarily a decentralized service as to the various servers, but it is decentralized in that it allows a portable profile, allowing you to take your profile along to other places and plug the same profile into other places. So it's not specifically as decentralized. So the challenge we have here inside of this is that Mastodon's over here saying, yeah, we don't have the means, so we're just going to ignore it. So they explain Mastodon doesn't track its users, which makes it difficult to enforce such a legislation, nor does it want to use the IP address-based blocks, as that would unfairly impact people when it were traveling. This is an interesting question for me, because I travel the country full-time, and invariably, I almost always drive through Mississippi, particularly right in the middle of Mississippi. There's a free campground that is an awesome place. I've stopped at it every year for the last few years. And if I happen to boot myself up into there and I'm camping out my spot, oh, this is a beautiful spot, you know, and I turn on YouTube, it says, hey, we've noticed you're in Mississippi and we have not verified your identity yet. Yeah. No, I'm not going to do that. Well, is it going to force me to verify my ID because I've driven through the state? And that's a legitimate question. What if I'm right on the edge of Mississippi? I'm over in Alabama, you know, I'm maybe Tennessee. I'm somewhere close by connected to it, but I happen to be like a small rural and it pings my IP address through maybe Birmingham, because that's how these IP addresses work, particularly in cellular towers. I might be pinging off a cellular tower in Birmingham. I'm in Tennessee, but you're trying to enforce a law that's in Mississippi law. How do you manage that? Because they can't do that. And then the next question here we have is that can Mississippi enforce a law on a server based in Arizona or Pennsylvania? And that's another question. It's like, I'm not from Mississippi. I'm not doing any business in Mississippi. Somebody else is on there. So what are they going to have to do? Are they going to have to start enforcing the rule on its own citizens? Well, that might be the way to do it. That's also the quickest way to overturn the law. You start charging people $10,000 per every social media site they access without providing their ID. You're going to have an angry mob on your turn really quick. It's going to start looking like the 1800s down there in Mississippi again. We're going to see pitchforks and torches out there, maybe a little bit of rope. All right. So that's the challenge here. So Mastodon basically says, hey, what about people who are just traveling through? They've been using the service fine for a long time. And they say that the problem is that the way their federated system works, nobody can decide for the Fediverse to block Mississippi. So if I happen to have an account in, let's say, Arizona, because my server's in Arizona, but I happen to reside in Mississippi and I want to access Mastodon, where is that from? Does the server in Arizona have to follow Mississippi's law? Well, not really. If I was the owner of that server, I wouldn't travel to Mississippi, but there's a big challenge about that. There's too many questions on this law. So Mastodon has its own servers. They specify a minimum age of 16 to sign up for its services. Does not have the means to apply an age verification. Now, here's the problem. Again, Mississippi's law does not say you must be a certain age. It says everybody must verify their ID. Interesting. So that, of course, if you're not over 18, you have certain account restrictions, by the way. They're kind of looking for that, but they want everybody to verify their ID. This means individual servers owners have to decide for themselves if they believe age verification is a necessary addition. So they say that they are currently unable to provide direct or operational assistance and to the broader set of Mastodon server operators. Instead, it encourages owners of Mastodon and other federated servers to make use of resources available online to provide trust and safety support for volunteer, blah, blah, blah. Of course, in all of this, Mastodon is not really answering what they're going to do. And this kind of started a little fight between them, because now there's this big question. Blue Sky says, no, any user in here would trigger the Mississippi law, so we are pulling out of the state. Mastodon's basically saying, yeah, you're just pussies. That's really what their argument is. So this is it here. I feel the potentially let's see. Eugene says here, I forgot this isn't Twitter. It's kind of goes backwards there. Eugene taking a pot shot at Blue Sky says this is why real decentralization matters, not your AT protocol. Use our activity pub instead. Nobody can decide for the Fediverse to block Mississippi. Mike comes back against that and says, I feel this is potentially misleading, both because others can host their own servers, views of the network, but also in the largest instances which you run, would you be willing to pay the $10,000 per user fines in Mississippi, because the state can still go after other instances? And this is the problem. Wherever the account is held, Mississippi is going to attempt to collect. Now, the question is, do they have jurisdiction? This is where UK is actually being sued right now by 4chan. Is it 4chan? Oh, it was 4chan in Kiwi Farms over the online safety, because UK is trying to impose fines, and they say, we are American companies. You cannot sue us. You cannot fine us. You cannot charge us. You don't want your citizens using our stuff? Block us in your country. That's your remedy, UK. And they're right. UK cannot enforce their laws on an American company and an American citizen. Go throw yourself and your stupid cup of tea in the harbor, UK. You can't do it, you know. Welcome to America. We told you in 1776 it ain't happening. Deal with it. You know what I mean? And so the challenge here is that the measure of jurisdiction. Can Mississippi go after a server owner in Arizona? Clearly, if your server is hosted and based in Mississippi, yes. Can they go after somebody based somewhere else? Probably not. And this is going to be one of those things. Of course, if I were any organization that got caught on this $10,000 fine, I would absolutely be asking the court to stay any penalty on fines pending the final court review. And because one of the reasons that the original suspension of the enforcement was overturned is the argument that, hey, nobody was hurt. This is where in the video I did, was it yesterday, I think, where I gave the argument about cities suing Kia and Hyundai, making their cars too easy to steal. Somebody said in the comments, no, it's the consumer who needs to sue, not the city. And I completely disagree for this reason. If the city sues Kia and Hyundai, the city as a government agency can force them to implement security protocols. Basically, they can do an injunctory relief to say you must follow this procedure. I, as a citizen, number one, I can only sue the car manufacturer if I have actually lost money over it. And number two, I can only get financial compensation. I cannot force them to change their practices, whereas the government can force them to change their practices. That's why it's important. If a city would, a state, a government agency would sue a car manufacturer, it actually has teeth for the ongoing future safety of the vehicle. Whereas me as a consumer, I can only receive monetary damages and only if I've actually lost it. And that really is the instance here with this Mississippi law. Who can Mississippi go after? If I'm in Arizona and I have nothing to do with Mississippi, I just turn around and tell the court, not my problem. I'm not in Mississippi. Mississippi needs to take it up with their resident. And that's going to be one of the things that raises a concern here. So the Mastodon instance could seemingly become a target, as could any message board, chat room, landing page, video channel, or main feed, as it says. So it's interesting you are characterizing this discussion about decentralization as an attack on the AT protocol. It is interesting. This is only in context which I hear about working together. So basically like, hey, we can probably work together. Now, a community called Black Sky is coming up based on Blue Sky. And they are basically saying we are not going to run any of this age verification stuff. But the problem is, as said down here, workarounds are not necessarily permanent solutions because the makers of these apps and clients have decided for themselves whether they want to risk becoming the popular alternative for users in Mississippi that could catch the legislators' attention. So this giant law is a huge mess. It is an absolute atrocious train wreck. And everybody who had anything to do with passing this stupid law needs to have their head examined. Of course, all this age verification is kind of a moot point because, believe it or not, you can actually get IDs online. In fact, once these know your customer laws started to be enforced all over the place, it got to the point where people started to sit down and say, hey, let's just steal people's identities and make really convincing IDs so that people can pass the the verification checks. So, you know, like Google products, by the way. We have our fun, wonderful Google products here. And in front of these, you have to verify your ID in order to push the app into the Google Play services. So, you know, I can just use VerifTools. Well, I could before it was seized. This was a one of many places you can get a fake ID. And this was U.S. law enforcement and Netherlands law enforcement. They break down one of these. Now, here's the sad part and why this is so detrimental. Even in this case here, which was very clearly breaking the law, their investigation started in 2022. It is now 2025. All right. So this investigation took 3 years to shut down this known online fake ID vendor. How many fake IDs happen to hit the world, stealing IDs, verifying fake verifiers online, and all for what? You know? So the criminal, you're not stopping the criminals, guys. You're not going to stop the criminals. All these age verification checks, all they are going to do is they're going to hurt the law-abiding. They're not going to hurt the criminals. Now, the other thing I want to mention about this here briefly in passing, of course, there was that freevpn.1. And if you did not watch the video I did breaking that down, you should go back and watch it. It did not receive a lot of views on the channel. But I believe, don't have solid evidence yet, but I believe that the same person behind freevpn.1 has 2 other extensions of the exact same thing also running on the Chrome store. And the person has 2 apps on the Google Play Store, all verified. One of them is a budgeting app, which I also warned about in a previous video. So be careful. Again, I do not know for certain that is the exact same developer. It's just there's enough coincidences that make me go, Seems very interesting that an extension that was collecting all of your information suddenly out of the blue, right before all those changes happen, another alternative with very similar trends tended to show up at the exact same time. The original one has been taken down. The 2 that replaced it are still available on the Chrome extension store for free VPNs. So be careful, guys. You should go take a look at that video as well. With that, we're going to jump on over into our comments for a few minutes here. And after that, then we're going to jump into our QuickLines. So let me go ahead and boot up my little tablet here. Let me see if there's any discussion going on Matrix. A little bit of discussion over here. Oh, a lot of discussion over here. Oh, boy. Why is Matrix my biggest comment section? It's hard to read, too. I've got this giant light right by my tablet. I got to block my light out there. There you go. Firefox probably going to die anyway if they don't get back to what they're supposed to. Yeah. Let's see. I would hope Firefox would survive. But, yeah, if they keep on doing stupid stuff, I don't know. Competitor they have available to, let's see, Firefox like got infiltrated, that's why they died from within. Google Play, do you have Aurora store for that? Yeah, I mean, I just use F-Droid, but I also don't use apps outside of extraordinarily few trusted ones. Can I create a Gulag account that'll survive more than 2 days without facial recognition? Probably not. I don't know. You use an AI generated face. Yeah, there was that video game that was able to get around UK's facial recognition stuff. Give that a try. Use a virtual camera. Buy a poster. There you go. Print out a face. Buy a beard. New STL merch. A Tom beard for passing age verification. See, if I shave the beard off, man, I won't have the gray hair to prove who I am. I don't know. I could eat a peach for hours. Ooh, I have peaches right here, man. I can't reach them right now, but yeah, I've had 2 peaches today. In fact, they're so good. Heck, time to drop in. Time to talk about the Fediverse, also known as the anti-megaphobes. Yeah, there's definitely, that's why if you notice down there, the Mastodon logo has the X around it. That's because the Fostodon accounts, the Fostodon server, we are the advocates for free software. Yeah, they banned me apparently for wrongthink. Apparently I'm a megaphobe. I no idea what I did that was so bad. I mean, maybe I mentioned Brian Lunduke in a positive light and they got triggered. when one of them came back from their epileptic seizure of the mere mention of Lenduke, I got banned. I guess that's probably the case. I don't know. But whatever, you know, go enjoy yourselves, crazy guys. That's fine with me. I've got 17 watching over on Rumble. Studebaker guy, greetings there. Ivan's over there, of course, with the band hammer. Dan's over, greetings to you. Crash Override, good to see Emilio. Found a job working in IT. There you go. Installing Debian 13 Trixie. There you go. I identify as more secure. I use degenerate search products. What? You can also watch YouTube if you have to using a Invidious instance. Or recall can be imposed. Hello, Hunter One. Greetings. I'm from Mississippi. Awesome. Okay, how much, Hunter One, have you heard about the law on Mississippi before I started talking about it? Because I've not heard anybody else mentioning it. I'm curious to know what you have heard about the law over there, and has it impacted you anywhere? I've got 9 currently watching over on Odyssey, and pretty much it's just me, Ivan, and TechBore hanging out over there. Oh, I see CP Simple over there. Mastodon is a haven for, yes, PDF files, apparently. Yeah, that's what I hear. After Elon Musk bought X and kicked them all off, they all ran to Mastodon. And they say he's made it bad. Not really. Reliance on defaults is why I have a serious doubts about Chromium browsers being as popular as they're reported to be. Yeah, there you go. Yeah. And we got 51 watching on the Tubies over here. Let's see what we got over here. We got Ivan's on, Mr. Snipes. Greetings, Install Energy. Howdy, howdy. Ice Tea Dakothian. I'm Water Pennsylvanian today. I've already had my 2 cups of coffee, and we're good. Grayson Pedley, the outer space sound really startled me there, but I'm here. Awesome. Well, thank you. And thank you again for the super chat as well. Anyone going to watch or attend Academy? What's Academy? I don't know. Kid 2610, your number has been called, and I love the Clippy. I still got to find me a paper clip. I have a bunch of them in my storage unit, but I don't. I need to go get me some. Still think it is dumb that they are the only reason Firefox is afloat. Yes, but also though, remember though that Microsoft kept Apple alive for the same reason. The only reason we have Apple is because Microsoft kept them afloat, because if they died, they would have been declared a monopoly in computer space. Let's see. Use Nextcloud for photo backup. So my point is we can all de-Google. Absolutely. Yeah, and I've done a couple videos on Nextcloud. I did one on my writing channel for authors, and I did another one here this week. Where'd I do it? Yeah, I think I did another one here as well, kind of talking about that. I think it was part of yesterday's or the day before's video, something like that. Start page can be a good alternative to Google. Yeah. Start page I use that on the other half of the computers that aren't using DuckDuckGo. But I've had some issues with Start page in the past wanting me to verify I'm a human too many times, and it kind of frustrated me. So I switched over to DuckDuckGo. Also, DuckDuckGo does work on the Tor browsers, which Start page does not work quite as well. So there's that as well. And there's Brave as well. There is Brave also. Let's see. Commodore Fan, greetings. Silver Ventures, hello. No one, good evening to you. Night of Light, hello to you. I'm glad Chrome Android is not being sold off. I don't know anyone who could afford to maintain them. Yeah, I mean, I support them remaining with Google. That's fine. Speaking of AI, you won't get AI answers if you don't add the question mark at the end in Kaji. Really? I was just over there just having a conversation, and I was like, I'm not answering you until you ask me a question. The whole dev verification isn't as bad as I think it'd be. Oh, it's going to be pretty bad. Yeah. Yeah, I prefer my data not to be private away from Google. Yeah. I hear you, but only lasts with a Pixel phone. You can still load custom ROM. Yeah, that's the thing. The Pixel phones, at least for now, can still run them. Graphene OS did confirm the Pixel 10 can be unlocked, can be relocked, all that kind of stuff. They did a lot of other stupid stuff with it, but hey, at least we still have it. Let's see. Serious nightmare for sure. With the news I've seen from it, British YouTubers calling it West China is starting to become less of a joke. Oh, yeah. There was actually another case where a comedian had to go back. I don't know. I guess he was maybe a UK citizen, but he was flying back to the UK this week, and they met him at the airport to change his seat so they knew exactly where he was, and then they arrested him for doing 3 tweets. So, which none of them were actually particularly saucy or spicy. And so I agree with the commentator who was talking about that, who said maybe at some point in time we need to start issuing travel advisories to UK, and maybe we need to stop seeing them as a free country and start treating them like we do China, which maybe might get their attention. I don't know. I have to answer the phone. Yeah, Mississippi, just wow. All right. This law is a miss in Mississippi. Yeah. Same thing happened with the prawn sites. There you go. The prawn sites. Talk about little crabs, right? Definitely not talking about anything but crabs. Oh, no. Maybe we're talking about the things they got over there. I don't know. Seems like many are just blocking people from states that want users to hand over their IDs. Yeah, that's true. Buy a beard. New STL merch for the Tom Beard. I love it. Yeah. Let's see. Mostly age verification nonsense can be bypassed with a Tor browser. Yep. T-Mobile home internet in South Carolina. It routes me through Atlanta, Georgia, so services think I'm in Georgia, so I get Georgia ads. Yeah. Had similar thing whenever I use a private window on my browser. Seems to think I'm in Pennsylvania. Whew. I'm sorry if you're in Pennsylvania. Jeez. Use the hotspot on my phone. My browser always thinks I'm in a different state than I'm actually in. Yeah. Use the Tor browser. Actually makes me think I'm in some random country in Europe. Yep. How is everyone this evening, War Thunder? Greetings. Tom, talk about the Fediverse. Yeah. GUI tool generate creates deb packages. Let's see. I'm just kind of skipping through stuff. So lawmakers are parents, and parents are and children are children of lawmakers. Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, they have some serious issues. Steve Gibson with the Security Now talked about the age verification from time to time. Your beard is like mine. Awesome. Your profile picture looks like a woman. Are you okay? All right. I will not assume weird things. Sorry. Companies use AI in place of people deserve what's coming to them. AI is no place coding for Linux. Yes. So I'm not replying. Also watching, attempting to rig the elections. Wait, what? You're watching the attempted. Wait, you're trying to rig the elections? What? What are you doing? Okay. Watching the attempted rigging of the Guyana elections. All right. There you go. Let's see. Happen to see it from the Slashdot article. RSS feed on the app didn't surprise me really. Okay, yeah, talk about the law in Mississippi. Cirex, yeah, there you go. He's the head writer for a very popular show. The IT crowd that leaked the audio of his arrest is insane. They asked him to the hospital because of his blood pressure and heart. Oh yeah, I did see that in the reporting. Yeah. Evening all. Hope you're well as can be. Awesome. We have another Clippy over there. Awesome. Thank you for supporting the Clippy trend. Dude, stop. YouTube, stop being stupid. All right, I was trying to pin where I am. All right, we are going to jump on over to QuickLines. So 10 really quick articles. We're going to go through these in a few minutes here. We'll see what we can do. This first one was an interesting one. Caught my eye, but we had to. And, of course, for some reason, MSNBC or MSN, whatever this is, MSN does not seem to allow me to highlight my posts. So hopefully I can remember the lines I wanted to show you guys. So people can see inside your house. A woman buys a brand new Roku TV from Walmart, and then she turns it on to see someone else's living room. Wait, what? All right. There's a lot of levels deep in here that we need to talk about. So effectively what happened is somebody goes and buys a new TV from Walmart, allegedly new TV from Walmart, and plugged it in and turned it on and immediately was seeing somebody else's house. Well, what is going on here is, number one, Walmart has a really bad habit of if people return things to Walmart, they repackage them and continue to sell them as new. They actually need investigated by the FTC for this. They really do. They need to be issued an injunction to stop selling returned merchandise as new. This happened to me as I was down in, I think it was down in Casa Grande or something, down in south of Phoenix. And I go into Walmart and need a new SSD. So I go over there. Of course, they're all behind the lock and key. So he goes in, and I finally track somebody down who can actually open the thing up. He opens the thing up, hands me the first one on the rack, and I'm not even thinking anything about it. So I go check out whatever else. Well, I go to actually install, open up to install it, and I see that the packaging has already been opened. Here's a hard drive, allegedly an SSD, that had the tape cut already. Now, I did not open it at that point in time. I do not know if the drive was in there. I don't know if the drive was used. I don't know if I was getting somebody's illegal collection of something. I have no earthly idea. I just went right back to the store. I said, this was opened. I just noticed it. I am taking it back. So they refund me with that one. I go get another one out of the case, and I verify that this one is not opened at all. Okay, I'm going to check it, at least allegedly, as long as at least the tape wasn't cut. Okay, not to say they didn't pull the old tape off and apply new one. I don't know. But that's the problem, is that Walmart has a problem of selling things as new that have been returned. So somebody apparently bought this Roku television and plugged in their Roku account to the television and set up the Roku security system. Now, this is not the camera in the television. This is a separate security camera from Roku that the other person had purchased and set up in the Roku account, and then apparently they returned the television. Now, the Roku television has another really stupid feature. You cannot sign out of your Roku account without providing the password. So they now have this Roku TV that is perpetually signed in to somebody else's house, showing inside their house. Forced voyeurism, I guess? I don't know. So when you're buying something from Walmart, make sure it's actually new. Investigate it before you leave the store. I've done that with big purchases at Walmart. I will buy it. I will go to the customer service desk and say, I just bought this big item. I am opening it here in the store before I leave with it to verify everything looks okay. Do that. Do it more often. Why do you do it in there by the customer service? They got lots of cameras to watch you the whole time. If there's a problem, hey, there's a problem with this. And I didn't leave the store, so you can't accuse me of doing something. And I should have done that. I'd definitely check those hard drives next time, that's for sure. But effectively, the TV was signed in to somebody else's account, and they couldn't undo it. So I guess the only option is to take the TV back. So, of course, clarification regarding the camera. It was a Roku, not a camera in the TV, although that wouldn't surprise me either. And why is Walmart selling a returned TV as brand new? Because they're money-hungry scum. That's why. OpenAI says it's scanning users' ChatGPT conversations and reporting the content to the police. How wonderful, folks. Are you all giving everything to OpenAI? Yeah, they're watching your conversations. I mean, they're just, rest assured, they're just using their own AI to look for certain keywords. Ooh. Better not be talking about how does one actually make something dangerous. And never mind. I'm not going to complete that sentence over here. For a better part of a year, we've watched and reported in horror as many more stories emerge about AI chatbots leading people to self-harm, delusions, hospitalizations, arrests, and self-deletory activities. So, of course, there was another one. Was it Penguin Z? What's that guy's name? I think he did one recently on the guy that was chatting with his ChatGPT, named it Bobby, I think, and it encouraged him to engage in arrestable behaviors. Yeah, okay. In a new blog post admitting to certain failures among users' mental health crises, OpenAI also quietly disclosed it's now scanning users' messages for certain types of content, escalating particularly worrying content to human staff for review, and in some cases reporting it to the police. If human reviewers determine the case involves an imminent threat of serious physical harm to others, we may refer it to law enforcement. Here's actually the blog post from OpenAI, which apparently also does not allow me to save their highlights. Okay, that's wonderful. Why are all these sites not allowing me to save the highlights? But it does say in here what they're doing. Let me just see if I can find it again. Escalating the risk. When we detect users who are planning to harm others, we route their conversation to specialized pipelines where they are reviewed by a small team trained on our usage policies who are authorized to take action, including banning accounts. If human reviewers determine the case involves imminent threat of serious physical harm to others, we may refer it to law enforcement. We are currently not referring self-harm cases to law enforcement to respect to people's privacy, given the uniquely private nature of ChatGPT interactions. We're respecting your privacy. We're just watching and we'll report you to the police. Okay, ChatGPT. All right. And so it remains unclear exactly which type of chats could result in user conversations being flagged. Of course, who's it to the human review? Probably those third world country guys that barely speak English again. They're really good, apparently, at watching you walk around a Whole Foods store and tabulating your account for your Amazon account, you know. To make the announcements all the weirder, this new rule seems to contradict the company's pro-privacy stance on the ongoing lawsuit. You know, they do not want to give over all of their training data because it's going to threaten the privacy of our users. Oh, really? Wonderful. So we're going to we're going to protect your privacy while listening in and reporting you to the police. So ChatGPT is being used as therapists and attorneys. They say it does not confer the same confidentiality as talking to a flesh and blood professional. In other words, you know, don't tell it all of your bad thoughts inside of your head. It will flag you. So be aware of that, folks. Very frightening. This one was one that was interesting, especially when we first started this new format here. I had mentioned the article from years ago where the man walks into the Target demanding why they're sending pregnancy-related items to his teenage daughter, and somebody had said to me, "That sounds like an old fairy tale. Prove it." I simply opened up a nearest search engine available, and I typed in that, and the very first hit was a Forbes article. So here's a thought. Do a little bit of research before you demand or prove what you're saying. Why don't you prove I'm wrong? Okay. But again, this is another case that I was like, oh, is this just coming back around full circle again? Another situation? No, this one went deep and dark. So first, social media guessed the person was pregnant even before she had announced it to anybody else, based simply on the content she's watching. But if that wasn't bad enough, now the social media is pushing her down a deep, dark hole about babies' deaths, miscarriages, and deformations. So yes, not only does the algorithm detect when you're pregnant, it then takes you down the worst possible places to go. Because like I've always said, folks, AI is the biggest problem AI is to us as a society is because it's trained on the things we have available. And we, by nature, are sinful creatures that like bad news. So AI is ultimately trained on the darkest parts of the human mind. You cannot get around that. AI is trained on the darkest parts of the human mind. You cannot get around that. So it wasn't until I read the caption I realized I was looking at her baby had been delivered 3 weeks. So she's talking about she's watching this woman holding a baby crying. Oh, that's not unusual. Many women cry when they first give birth to their babies, except this one here was not a living baby. It was a stillbirth. And so then the social media knew it was pregnant before the family, friends, or the general practitioner. Within 24 hours, they were transforming my feeds on Instagram and TikTok. I would scroll through videos of women recording themselves as they took pregnancy tests, just as I had just done. Very interesting. Maybe the credit card or your Shoppers Club card that you scanned when you bought your pregnancy test fed that data up to the advertisers. They go, hey, this one's pregnant, or probably is. Let's start feeding the algorithm full of that. That's exactly how this happens. All right, so it starts feeding it, but they were soon, she uninstalls these apps because they were just getting her depressed. But of course, she had to reinstall it because of work and needs, friendship, and the habits they dictated they must be. No. Change that word. That's not habit. Addiction dictated they must be. These are addictions, folks. These are addictions. I didn't feel right in the feed of somebody who had inadvertently signaled the algorithm of having a baby, of course, and then it went down and just drove her into this dark stuff. Getting into this, not sure if it was the cookies generated, which formed the digital footprint, or simply the platforms I was engaging with, which knew I was in late pregnancy, but I started seeing a large amount of content about late stage terminations and miscarriages. So basically the algorithm's just pushing her down to the darkest part, as AI tends to do. Anthropic warns of AI-powered cybercrime in a new threat report. Well, congratulations. So let's see. AI is not good enough for the doctors to use it in medicine. It's not good enough for the lawyers to use it in courts. It's not barely good enough for the advertising. I have a client that's testing around with an AI, like an AI marketing thing, and the little thing is literally attaching AI slop onto AI slop blogs. It is atrocious. In fact, I think it's going to hurt the SEO, and I've warned about that already. But it's really good for scammers. Literally, AI has empowered scammers more than anybody else. The one market that AI has empowered the best is scammers. So Anthropic's latest threat report warns that hackers, scammers, and state-based groups are increasingly using Claude chatbot to carry out sophisticated cyber attacks. So they said the attacker uses AI to an unprecedented degree, automating tasks such as scanning for vulnerable systems, harvesting credentials, and deciding which stolen files were most valuable. North Korean job scams were supercharged. If you remember this one, some North Korean IT geeks were over there, and they were infiltrating American companies doing remote jobs, collecting paychecks from American companies, handing it all over to the North Korean government because they're not allowed to have any money. By generating convincing resumes, passing coding tests, and even performing technical tasks, the operatives allegedly funneled salaries back to this company in violation of international sanctions. Anthropic said the use of AI had removed long-standing barriers for such schemes. Operators who cannot otherwise write basic code or communicate professionally in English are now able to pass technical interviews at a reputable technology companies. So there you have it, guys. AI is definitely hurting us the most because of all of the scamming that it is deeply empowering. How wonderful. Well, there was a new PayPal targeted scam, so be careful of anything coming from these. And I want to read through this and give a potential solution here. This would be interesting. Highly sophisticated email scam targeting PayPal users with a subject line of "set up your account profile." And of course, the text reads a new profile charge. We've detected a payment in the amount of $910 at kraken.com. To dispute, contact PayPal, and there's a phone number. Otherwise, no action is required. They accept automatic pending bill from the account for you, and the new PayPal account added you to the crypto wallet account. So there's all that. All right, so this is yet another one of these, which is utilizing, by the way, Google's test accounts. Google's test accounts to send all these things out, and they're sending all of these things and basically allowing bulk phishing emails to land in there. I mean, hey, just today I've learned I'm getting a pay raise. You know, the HR company for the company that I own sent me an email saying that I get a pay raise, new employee benefits packages. Just click here for the details. The problem is I own the company and I do not work with an HR person, so I know that email's kind of scammy. You know, I'm just so itching to click that thing and see where it goes. But you know, I don't have my Cubes computer set up right now, so I don't have to go work on that anyway. the flags here, often using Microsoft 365 or Google test domains with their own domains, in this case a compromised one, allows them to send bulk phishing emails while masking their intent, but does mean that recipients see unfamiliar addresses, somebody at unknowndomain.test-google-a.com instead of their own. So the malicious activity or advanced phishing techniques rather than official Google practice. So that's red flag number 1. Red flag number 2 was when looking at it, the email is asking you to do something. There's a third one was urgency. You got to do it within 24 hours. So here's the typical content. Urgency. The amount is over 900. Grab your attention. Crypto wallets, because most people misunderstand them. Here's a fun one. The phone number listed is known by the Better Business Bureau as related to this type of scam, and the recipient is not addressed by name in the email. Legitimate PayPal emails always address your full name. Then here's some extra header information. They've blocked some things out for redaction. So I have 2 interesting solutions here. Number 1, if the Better Business Bureau knows that this phone numbers are tied to it, why don't we utilize all of this amazing AI, find every place, every instance this phone number shows up, figure out who's behind it, and give them the Trende Aragua fentanyl boat treatment. There's a thought. Bomb them! Okay, no, I'm not saying that. If this is the same phone number that is being used over and over and over, who on God's green earth is allowing this phone number to keep going? And this leads us to the second interesting thing. All of these breaches seem to be coming from Google accounts, Microsoft accounts, Dropbox accounts, multi-billion-dollar global national conglomerates. So I have a solution. Anybody who falls victim to a scam must be made whole by the company that service was used to scam the person. Because Google can take the hit if their services were used to scam somebody. And then if Google would like to resurface the $10,000 that was stolen by the scammer, Google has the resources to find the people and extract the money from them. There's a thought. So if any of these big tech services are used for committing a scam that is successful, I think that company should make it right. And then that company can do whatever means in their power to retrieve the losses. There's a thought. The money went somewhere. So if Microsoft 365, Google test domains, Dropbox, all these companies, and whoever is empowering 805-500-8413, I think they can make it right. And then if they would like to recoup their losses, they can go and figure out who's behind it and they can recoup their losses. There's a thought. I bet if they find out that it's all one data center in India, Google can go to India and go, guess what, India? You're closing these companies down, seizing their assets, giving us this much money, or we're shutting you off. There's a thought. That might actually work. I don't know. What do you guys think? This is wonderful thoughts, though. I'm having good ideas here. I don't know. Oh, bad idea. TransUnion discloses a data breach. How wonderful. The company I want nothing to do with that potentially leaked out much of my data. Wonderful. It's like the Equifax. Equifax is just so good to call Equifax. What do we call TransUnion? I don't know. Give me ideas. How do we disparage TransUnion down in the comments? Now, this was very small. This wasn't like Equihacks that lasts literally everything. This is a fairly small amount of customers, 4.4 million customers. And even that, they said they didn't get a lot of information, mostly just like publicly available data type stuff. So, I don't know. Let me know what you think about all that down there. Anyway. Taco Bell decides to do the AI experiment that just ended up not working well, and they're kind of backtracking, but they're still trying to figure out how we can cram AI in here. We gotta fire people. How do we cram AI in here? So the company added AI in the drive-through boxes to more than 500 locations across the country and quickly found it made mistakes, creeped people out, and got very easily manipulated. One of the lessons, people really like messing with AI, like ordering 18,000 1,000 cups of water, please. Of course, water's free, so, If you browse Taco Bell Reddit, surprisingly vibrant community, there are employees and bellheads alike lamenting the AI takeover. One employee posted the AI assistant started telling people the restaurant was out of everything but drinks and sauce packets. Another person attempted to order a chalupa supreme with onions from the AI assistant, ended up with 3 chalupas. When they tried to replace the meat with beans, the AI simply refused. Another person here, they said, no, the other ones that I saw was somebody goes through and orders just a Mountain Dew, and the AI really insists on knowing what you'd like to drink with that and will not accept no for an answer. I think I'd like another Mountain Dew. A Mountain Dew to drink? Yes, and another one. And some people could not get around it, so they let the orders go and then force the human taking the money to fix the order, which is a nightmare if you've ever worked fast food, particularly if food is already in the process, because then you got to do the override. You got to, did I already make it? And, and then you need to get the manager in there to override the transaction order. There's all sorts of stuff that goes on there. McDonald's had their own failure. Wendy's had their own failure. White Castle's now bring it to 100 drive-thrus, so they're going to be the next to fail. So a quick scan of these efforts are going about, as well as Taco Bell experiments. McDonald's reportedly ditches AI, after it kept messing up with orders. People have also taken a social media complaint about having to deal with Wendy's AI chatbot, finding it to be inaccurate and creepy. Yeah, it's wonderful. I wonder if it's like, never mind. I'm not going to go there. I was going to say something really creepy, but nah, I can't do that. When a restaurant is super busy and has long lines, it's better for humans to handle it. Turns out maybe replacing people with AI should not be on the menu. Wonderful. We do have an update from Meta. Meta decides to update the chatbot rules to avoid inappropriate topics with 12-year-olds. Yikes. So it says it's changing the way it trains AI chatbots to prioritize teen safety. So it's changing to prioritize teen safety. Why was a change needed? Spokesperson exclusively told TechCrunch following an investigative report on the company's lack of AI safeguards for minors. The company says it will now train chatbots to no longer engage with teenagers on self-harm, self-deletion, disorderly eating, or potentially inappropriate romantic conversations. Meta says these are interim changes, and the company will release more robust, long-lasting safety updates for minors in the future. Okay. We are going to no longer engage with teenagers on these topics. Why did you ever? Well, because in the discussions down here, the Meta spokesperson acknowledged the company's chatbots could previously talk to teens about all these topics in ways that the company had deemed appropriate. So a bunch of perverts from Silicon Valley thinks it's appropriate to tell your 12-year-old kid who takes his shirt off that he looks hot. Ah! Check the hard drives, quick! Where's the Epstein list? Are they on it? The company had deemed it appropriate for the chatbot to have romantic conversations with kids. Yeah, that's the problem, folks. This is why you as parents need to keep your kids off these platforms. They think this is acceptable behavior until it gets called out. And then people are like, what do you mean that's a problem? It's a what? Policy changes are being announced just 2 weeks after a Reuters investigation unearthed an internal Meta policy document appeared to prevent the company's chatbot from engaging in conversations with underage users that were of a nature. Meta says the document was inconsistent with the broader policies and has since been changed. It's inconsistent with the broader policies that seem to think they were deemed appropriate? It sounds like a public relations officer is lying again. Of course, I can tell they're lying. Their mouth was moving. So, there's an update to this morning. Sources updated to note that these are interim changes and the Meta plans to update its AI policies in the future. Maybe we need to get back to that Hays Code era of Hollywood. Consult a couple of pastors or something before you release these. Maybe they can look at it. Maybe you shouldn't allow the AI to be having these conversations about taking your kid to bed. I don't know. It's not a big fan of the Hays Code, but At least things are a little bit better. Of course, I don't know. It depends on who the pastors are you're talking these days. I don't know if I trust them either. On to the only good news of the day. Vivaldi comes out and doubles down on a ban on generative AI. They basically say, we are not putting AI in it, which is, I do use Vivaldi on some of my computers. Of course, it's one I was kind of looking at replacing because they keep on adding crap that doesn't need to be in a browser and making it infinitely more annoying. So if you can solve that problem too, I'd be all over it. Unfortunately, Vivaldi has just left too many bad tastes in my mouth. But this one here I can get behind. They're basically saying, yeah, everybody out there is trying to cram AI into the browser. Brave is doing it. Firefox is doing it. Obviously, big tech companies are doing it. Now we're getting entire companies that have not done web browsers before are creating it just to collect all the information they can, all to train their AI models. But they have said, no, we've gone too far with all of this. It's not really focused on what people need. He even said in his conversations, most people do not want AI in their browser. Those that do can easily install an extension, even in Vivaldi. So Google, Microsoft, Mozilla, Perplexity, others have been integrating AI models into their respective browsers, while AI firms without browsers like Anthropic and OpenAI are testing extension-based integrations or pursuing a browser of their own. So there you go. Von Texter argues that relying on generative AI for browsing dehumanizes and impoverishes the web by diverting traffic away from publishers and onto chatbots. Yes. And that is really what is behind the video we did yesterday, what Microsoft is trying to do with cloud. Was that yesterday or 2 days ago? I don't know. Microsoft's new web, that video I was talking about. Without exception, the web becomes far less interesting. Our curiosity loses oxygen and the diversity of the web dies. Yeah, all that's left is AI slop. So the CEO tells the Register that almost all the users he hears from do not want AI in their browser. And they say the reason they're putting it in the system is to collect information, which is inappropriate. So there's one for that. Maybe I will keep Vivaldi around longer after all, because I just have to support a browser that's not going to follow the fad of throwing AI into absolutely everything. And this one here, the fight against labeling long-term streamer rentals as purchases you buy. So this is kind of a follow-up to looking at the buy versus rent versus own circumstances. I kind of piggybacks a little bit of one of the things Louis Rossman was testing is he asked some people in California to who were students required to buy textbooks. He basically said, hey, reach out to California to find out if there's any teeth in the law, because it requires that if you use the word buy or purchase, like lifetime ownership, it requires you to specify exactly what you mean by lifetime. And the one academic site, I think it was Pearson's site, where you can buy a lifetime PDF, which really only lasts up to 5 years, really. And he basically found that in most instances, California law didn't seem to have any teeth. This was here as a case where somebody's actually testing the law. So it's interesting to see here. So it boils down to, in this instance, going to Prime Video, they offer the option to rent a video or to buy a video. The problem is, like, rent means you get it and you have access to the video. I think it's like 24 or 48 hours, and then it expires. But then there's buy, which means it's in your library for a long period of time. But you still can't download it. You still have to watch it through their service. And if something goes wrong with their licensing of it, you lose it. So they're arguing that this is not buying it because you cannot use it in a format you want to use it. And that's really what this law is testing. So language can be confusing, but typically when something is available to buy ownership of that good or access to the services offering in exchange for money, that's not really the case when it comes to digital content. Prime Video offers customers the option to rent digital content for a few days or to buy it. These purchases are really just long-term licenses to watch the content for as long as the streaming service has the right to distribute it. All right, so on August 21st, Lisa Reinhold filed a proposed class action lawsuit in the District Court for Eastern District of California. against Amazon alleging false and misleading advertisements. Among the terms of service on Prime Video, they say instead they receive a non-exclusive, non-transferable, non-sublicensable, limited license to access digital audio-visual work, which is maintained at the defendant's sole discretion. So basically, if Amazon says that their discretion, they want to stop offering that particular thing, they can. You know, kind of like when they literally pulled, like, you can't make this stuff up, guys. The first instance of Amazon actually doing this type of stuff, they pulled 1984 ebooks off of people's Kindle devices that connected to the internet. You can't make it up. 1984 was the first book Amazon removed from people's purchase histories. Talk about previews of coming things. The complaint compares buying a movie from Prime Video to buying one from a physical store. It notes when someone buys a DVD, they can view the movie a decade later, but the same cannot be said necessarily if they purchase the film on Prime Video. This got me thinking, what is the oldest DVD I have? What is the oldest form of media I have? It makes you wonder, doesn't it? And I am thinking back to this. If you go oldest media I know of I have, it has to be, I'm pretty sure it is Weird Al's album, Even Worse, which I got shortly after it released somewhere around elementary school. And I still have that cassette tape. I can still take that cassette tape, pop that thing in a player, and play it. So there's something to be said about that. Like, what's the first DVD? Because, of course, DVDs came out later. They cracked encryption. I think I was around high school-ish or so age. Although, of course, like any new technology, super expensive, hard to get into initially, especially for a high school starving college student. I want to say it was maybe halfway through college. I got a DVD player of one of the very first ones. You had to have the DVD player and you had to have a special PCI card to pair with it. You had to have both of them in order to watch a DVD. And I want to say, if it's not my oldest DVD, it's one of my oldest DVDs. I have the DVD Pay It Forward, which I know I remember watching when I was in grad school, early 2000s. So presumably my oldest DVDs go back to there. And yes, I still have that movie and it still plays. And so that's going back at least 2.5 decades. I've had this movie. You're going back 3 or more decades before I get to the time. Actually, was that 4? I don't know. A lot of decades to go back for that little cassette tape from Weird Al's Even Worse, right? And so there is validity to this, that as long as I have that physical item, I can buy it. But now if I go into Prime Video and I can buy something here, how long do I actually have access to watch that? As I remember buying a PDF on Amazon and wanting to go back and read it again just a couple years later, and I was not able to access it. They pulled my access to it. That one of the early things that led me down this pro-consumerist path is to say, what in the world is going on? Now, in 2020, they fought this previously in, I want to say this was in Canada, maybe. They secretly reserve the right to terminate customers' access of the video content any time and has done so on numerous occasions, leaving the consumer without the ability to enjoy their already bought video content. The case was dismissed in October 2021 with a judge ruling the plaintiffs lacked standing. Gets back to that whole standing issue in the Mississippi law. California law reignites the debate. Now, the reason there was no standing is there was no law about it. Well, now there is actually a law because in January of 2025, California's law bans the selling of a digital good to a purchaser with the terms buy, purchase, or any other term which a reasonable person would understand to confer an unrestricted ownership interest in the digital good or alongside an option for a time-limited rental. And this is what the law right now is being tested by. So if the seller can use the word like buy, it provides to the customer ahead of the transaction statement that says, states in plain language that buying or purchasing a good is a license, as well as an online terms of service, the law states, because as to Roston's point, it's buried on, page 35 or whatever else of the terms of service. And so they say here, in this instance, the notice is far below the buy movie button, buried at the very bottom of the page, and is not visible until the very last stage of the transaction after the user had already clicked the word buy. That behavior is what might win them the case. And so obviously this is a fight about what Amazon is going to do. And so it's an interesting one, and how this boils down effectively is going to determine where we are going to go in the terms of consumer rights down the road. All right, we have only one SillyVille article, and this is just the best I could find for you guys. But this grill manufacturer accidentally lists a Canadian couple's number as their helpline, and the couple just decides to help all the customers that call. Why not, right? Of course, this is up in Canada where everyone is really nice. So I'm not going to play the whole video here. You can read the video. But basically, they messed up, and people kept on calling the guy's cell phone up to like 20 times a day. So what the guy would do is find out where they're at. And they had figured out where every distributor of this grill was, where they could buy parts. They figured out basic, basically how to run some things, the most common questions. And they literally helped all of these customers that were calling their number, because they alerted the company and the company took action, but it still took 6 months to scrub their number from the internet. And so what the company ended up doing is they gave them a certificate of appreciation for their role. They threw them a retirement party for no longer being the unpaid customer service, and they did give them a brand new, really big Napoleon grill out of the deal. So they got a grill out of it, and they got a wonderful story out of it. So kind of funny, kind of hilarious, but yeah, this is what can happen in this age. And I remember having my own situation where the area code in central Pennsylvania differs slightly than the one just down south in Altoona, and a restaurant opened up that was in Tyrone, which has the Altoona area code, but since it's Tyrone, it's really close to State College, so I did all this marketing in the State College area code. Well, they had the Altoona version of my number, and I had the State College version of my number, and all of these people inadvertently did not dial an area code from central Pennsylvania, and it rang me when I lived out west. So it's like 5 in the morning and I'm getting people calling me all the time. I'm like, no, you got the wrong number. You need to dial the area code and blah, blah, blah. And I had some people that would just thought I was messing with them. They kept calling back and back. I'm just like, lady, it is 5 in the morning. I am not going to be nice if you call back next time. But these people here are Canadians, so they're nicer than me. So they just decided to become the customer service reps for the grill company. So, what else can you do? Well, if you want to help support the channel, we do have affiliates as well. I'm investigating something on NordVPN. I don't even know if this is still a valid affiliate anymore. I need to verify that, but potential questions there, so be careful of that. Of course, all the other ones I think are all valid there as well, so you can help support the channel, especially if you buy things on Amazon. You can do this. It will not cost you anything else, but it just sends a little bit of your order to me instead of Amazon keeping it all. So you can always help support me by supporting the affiliate links there. So thanks for watching, and we are going to feed the beast, and then we'll go ahead and do our comments. So let me go ahead and turn on my kitty cam and see if I can't round up a creature or two. Kitty kitties. Kitty kitties. Come on, buddy. Come on. Come on. Come on, buddy. Come on, kitty. Yeah. Oh. Oh, smell that. Come on up. There it is, right there. See it? Yeah. Yeah, buddy. That's all you got. That's all you got. That's all you got. That's all you got. All right. that it will end the content part of our show. So we will wrap up our comments until we run out of comments to chat about. So if you like comments, hang around. If you are not a fan of comments, then that will be the end of it. Let's see. I'm just flipping through, see if there's anything. A 1 gigabyte floppy disk? What? Parents used to answer the phone Pizza King for solicitors to catch them off guard. I continue the tradition, though, mostly with family who get the joke. Yeah. You can just say Pizza Hut, I guess. There you go. Yep. Should you get a Bible bot on the server? Interesting. What's that one do? Interesting. Should spit out the Gen Z translation for humor. I don't know, man. I'm still looking for the lightning bolts for reading that Gen Z translation of the Bible not too long ago. Let me move back over there. I didn't realize the cat left. Sorry, guys. I was too busy watching the tablet screen here. All right, let's see. Oh, that was from a while ago. Okay. My Matrix thing on my tablet's showing me old content still. Okay, I'm going to let that try and catch itself up. Let me jump back over here. Maybe my parents will start parenting again. There you go. Let's check on over here. Google probably receives kickbacks, which is why none of these scam centers get shut down. Yeah. Want some Carl Jr.'s big fries. But I'm an unfit mother. Well, you know. Too bad Proton can't keep AI out of their email service. Nobody needs an email writing AI. Oh, Lord help us. All right. Check in over here on Zatubies. Let's see. YouTube, stop being stupid. Yep. Search the Brax3 phone from a quick look. It looks a bit sketch to me. I don't know, man. I don't know about the Brax3 phone. I don't know. Just use a portable monitor to watch videos, movies, play games, etc. I don't watch TV. Mine's a View Sonic. Got to replace my TV. Got a Walmart on Roku TV. No issues with my unit. You're not looking at somebody else's living room, though? Yeah, no used SSDs unless I'm the one who used it. Yep. Roku. Big nope. Walmart's being lazy and lame. Yep. There you go. Hey, ChatGPT, what is the nuclear launch code? Had a hard drive enclosure. I purchased one time because I thought it was new at a thrift store. It had a very unsafe content, had to dispose of, so I don't trust used discs. Yikes. You want a 55-inch OLED TV for immersive movie watching? Still go for the LG 5G, but keep it disconnected from the internet. I don't know if I want to ever buy an LG TV again. Oh, the things that we're doing is frightening. Leon SD micro SD cards are made by SanDisk or PNY, depending on the batch or the size. Huh. Yeah, I do have an LG dumb TV, but I don't know if I have to buy another TV anytime soon. I don't know what I'm going to do because I am not interested in a smart TV, even if it's not connected to the internet, because they're starting to put like Wi-Fi modules in these things, you know. About 300 email addresses. My PayPal address is very unique. Yep. Feel that Google should be hit with $1 billion fine for supporting Indian scammers. Yeah. Make facilitators responsible. Massive resistance to that. Lawyers trying but getting nowhere. Okay, paradox time. This sentence is false. Wait, what? I'm going to call it a night. It's been a pleasure. All right, man. We'll see ya. Any string is considered true. Night, Spicy. Have a good evening. Sally Vivaldi's becoming a bloated pig. That's my problem with it. Too many tools duct taped into what's supposed to be a browser. That and there's components of it that are proprietary, and I'm not a fan of that. Spans Onion for Tor users will get it. Let's see here on eBay, looking for wireless Xbox 360 controller. They just work well on PC, even Linux. Huh. You know what? My Xbox 360 finally died, and I have 2 function controllers. We're debating if I want to spend $75 and buy a new Xbox 360 or move on to games made maybe this century. But I do have 2 Xbox 360 wireless controllers in my storage unit. Let's see. Currently use a Sony DualSense for my living room gaming setup. Don't use controllers enough to get a good quality one. Refuse to use modern Windows. Yeah, I'm with you there. Steam calls it big picture mode. I knew it was big something. Cats. All right. Seems like Steam might be releasing desktop PC and a new controller. That'd be neat. I get motion sickness really easily. Don't usually go for it, though. I did try. Meta Quest headset. Wasn't too bad. Only option is to find an older Samsung or a Scepter. Yeah, I use Scepter monitors. I'll have to see if I can get Scepter. Let me see if I can always see if I can get into the comments of Matrix now. Mississippi told California to hold my beer. Oh dear. Forget about DuckDuckGo. Yeah, DuckDuckStop. It's had some controversies over the years. MSNBC is dead, looks like. Well, they're actually rebranding to MS Now. My Source. What is it? My Source. News, Opinion, World. That's their new rebrand. It's rolling out soon. Yeah, it is brain rot inducing. My brother had Yahoo Instant Messenger. I had a Yahoo Instant Messenger at one point in time. I used that to communicate with clients. Actually, I used that when I first started web design. This was funny. When I first started web design, my very first project, kind of getting started on my own, I worked with the guy who ended up being one of the VCs behind Odyssey. Kind of interesting, but he and I chatted on Yahoo Messenger together to get specs done for the jobs. It's kind of funny. So I have a connection to the VC board of Odyssey. Go figure. Let's see. Yeah, I had one of my brother had Yahoo Messenger, better days. Let's see. British people when you bring the knife crime stats. Matrix video there. Lots of comments over here on Matrix. Mostly they're like chatting between themselves, and I am like not tracking what exactly is going on. So really run our own home servers. Yeah, I don't know if I want to run my own Matrix home server, because now I have to work with now have to work around that stupid Mississippi law. We couldn't just say in the terms of service, if you're from Mississippi, you're banned. Yeah, lots of discussion on that. Indeed, we still have 360 Slim that still works. Yeah. Let's see. No longer an OS, it's a service. I have multiple old dumb monitors, including dumb TV in my office. Yeah. Even the monitors are starting to get smart features, which is a nightmare as well. Always loved the clamshell design, though. Had 3DS where the hinges completely broke. Yeah. All right. I think we've reached the bottom of the comments everywhere. Couple down here. Braxman's content. He always talk about how everyone talks bad about him, but I just hear it from him, so he's basically the one who talks about everyone else. I have not watched Braxman content for a while. I know very little about the guy except that he shells his own VPN, his own phone service, his own different stuff. But I do know that when he was just getting started out, his website didn't even have basic security stuff. And that makes me wonder, if you can't get basic security on your website, do I trust you with security on a phone or a VPN or things like that? So I don't have anything against the guy. I've seen some of his content. Some of his stuff is really good, that I've seen in the past. I legitimately don't watch a ton of tech content. Every now and again I watch stuff. So I can't comment if his stuff is good or bad. I know I have, occasionally he'll do a video which piques my interest. I'll watch that. They've always been decent content, as far as I can tell. But no, I'm just not a huge fan of watching the individual content creators shilling all of their own individual services necessarily. And that's kind of the part that's a turnoff. I'm not saying anything bad about him. I'm not saying his stuff is not good. I'm just saying, I'd rather go onto something like using a Pixel phone, which thousands and thousands of more people have had their eyes on it. I'd rather use Graphene OS, which thousands and thousands of people run. I'd rather just do stuff like that rather than single small developer stuff. That's my general thought. But it'd be maybe I should get one and see what it's like and things. That'd be good. Except I'm not a security researcher per se. I'm more of an end consumer who takes an interest in this kind of stuff. So there's that. Anyway, there is our show for the night. Thank you guys for watching. Have yourselves a wonderful evening, and we will see you all next time.